Hey everyone, welcome to Polly Weekly News. We've just been laughing in the green room. Anyway, thank you for joining this week. It is a pre-record because I'm somewhere sunny, hopefully sunny, on holiday. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't leave you hanging with regards to your Polly Weekly News fix for Monday, 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. CT, 10 a.m. Eastern. As promised, and this is a show that I've been wanting to do for a long time around management, and that's not my management, that's our Poly products management and Teams management and Zoom management and the management of all of these great devices that you have across your estate. There are lots and lots of choices and lots of confusion with those choices, and I've got two experts that I'm bringing on today. I'm looking, they're both smiling at that statement around all of the things around management. Let's cross over to the green room and introduce you who we have on today's show. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have Alan Oliphant. Alan, how long have you been at Poly? Or do you not want to say?
Well, I like to say boy and boy for 21 years in May
21
this year.
years.
I know.
Goodness.
I know I don't look old enough, but trust me, I am.
Very cool. Solutions architect for cloud and management. And on the right-hand side of our screen, live, recorded live from Westminster, Colorado, not his normal place of location, we have Brandon Guy, senior principal solution architect for management and cloud. Brandon, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm experiencing our return to the office here as we're starting to do some of our travel back here in the States.
I'm not
It
sure
is,
if you're the first person on the show that's been in an office for certainly for a long time. So this is
you had such a special event here. I wanted to make it special for you. So I took a trip out to another office
another state and
just
another.
for you. Yeah, I went across the country and just wanted to make it special for you, man.
How does it feel? Do you feel slightly grubby, or is it okay?
I mean, I'm in my room here. I've got my, of course, my our official two people maximum
Okay.
space where I've taken over, and I'll tell
Okay.
you, it feels weird to be in the airports and traveling again, but it also feels like a muscle memory that just comes back over time.
And in one of our engineering hubs, I'm hoping there's nothing secretive from on the whiteboard behind you, but let's see if anyone picks it up in the chat and the comments on YouTube. Let's see if there's some secret prototype
No,
written on the board.
there is no ecosystem. There's nothing back there for you.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
yeah.
So today we're going to talk about management. Let's roll the credits, get in with the show, and bring you back on to talk about all things device management. So this is Poly Weekly News. We do this, as I say, every Monday, 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. CT, 10 a.m. Eastern, whatever time that is for you. Please put your thoughts and comments in the comments, not in the real-time chat, because this isn't live. As we mentioned, it is a pre-record for you. But we'd love to obviously hear from you more about how you want to use management, what you're seeing with management, and your questions and comments for the show. So put them in the comments below. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, do all the good YouTube stuff. As I say, we'd love to have you join us regularly here on a Monday. But as we mentioned, we wanted to get in and talk to you more about our management. So let's bring up Brandon and Alan, and we'll all squeeze in together. Now, this is actually one of my own questions, and I get this a lot. Everything we talk about at Poly now, all the great new cameras, the P series we launched, and now the E70 we've just announced with Microsoft, all comes with this kind of lens stuff. And we're always talking about lens. And that's not the camera lens, that's our management lens. So can you kind of take us sort of from the ground at 50,000 feet view for anyone who's been sleeping in a darkened room? What is lens? What's it all about? What are we doing? What is this thing?
Yeah, fantastic question. I like to where you started this when we talk about all of our devices. That's really where, when we look at Poly, our approach is really that device-centric model of how do we take all of these varying devices and components and build them such in a way that we're really helping to enable collaboration in a very equal experience, regardless of where you're actually working from. This past 18 months, as the pandemic has hit everyone, hasn't really changed a lot for the admins when we talk about management. But what it's done is it's increased this idea about how and where people work. So it's not so much a building as to, I must go into the office to be able to work, right? We're seeing people work everywhere. And this is really kind of, for lack of a better word, really exacerbated one of these challenges of the IT administrator. When we look at historical deployments, right? When I'm inside of an office, I'm inside my network, and I have a lot more control as these devices, these components like our P15s or really any of our P series or our headsets, as these are being distributed and put out outside of the network and working from home, working from any kind of location, frankly, we're seeing this kind of challenge kind of becoming more and more highlighted for our administrators. And so very similar to how we're very focused on solving collaboration needs for the end user. And that's kind of demonstrated by the plethora of devices that we are offering, really giving you that flexibility to work how you want to work. From an administrator perspective, we're actually focusing on how do we make that easier on that admin role, right? And what we've seen is that there hasn't really been a change to the problems that they're experiencing. And so we've kind of internally, we've been categorizing this and working on this for many years pre-pandemic, that we've kind of focused on what we call our 4 pillars. And we want to talk through them, how do we solve them and make that better? And so from a poly management perspective on our devices, we see the challenges of deployment, right? First and foremost, I got to get these things out to my locations. So be that within an office or be that at someone's house, how do I quickly ship something to them? When we talk about our offices, we've been doing this for many years where I can take a poly device, I can plug it into the network, and it just auto magically comes up with our zero touch technology. Yeah, buddy, I got a deep vocabulary here for you today. But even from a deployment perspective, right, when we launched with our P series, we made a dramatic change in the way we started bundling devices together, right? How do we make these kits so that for what we would call our work from home, where we put our awesome camera technology bundled in with, the headset or audio device of your choice, right? So whether that be a Sync or whether that be a Voyager or a Blackwire device, there's a lot of flexibility, but from an IT admin, I'm not having to go and source all these different components and then bundle them together and then reship them out. We're kind of putting that into one single SKU. And that all applies to this whole concept of how do I do effective deployment. Once you get past that phase of solving that challenge from a deployability, we move into this, how do I then understand what's out there, right? How do I know what I've deployed? How do I see it? How do I know it's online and working? Now, from a working perspective, we face the inevitable perspective of something will go wrong, right? And then how do I quickly then go from the perspective of, hey, I'm seeing this online or I'm seeing this offline, and then how do I go to fix that, right? So the troublability of doing changes, making configuration such that it's ubiquitous across my entire deployment. Those are huge challenges of how do I do that at scale? Because I'm moving beyond just a couple of video room endpoints to thousands of devices, right? When we talk about enabling our workforce with multiple components, I mean, I'm on the road and I'm looking here on this table and I've got about 4 different models of headsets, and it's just me traveling. And so we start talking about that volume of sending things out with people, it starts to compound for our administrators and becomes a real burden. And this doesn't even start to take into account all the advancements that we're putting into our products from just a software innovation. So all of this becomes a management nightmare, right? If you don't have a solid story around that.
And I guess the other interesting challenge around that is that was fine when we all used to live in one world. We had our endpoints connected to our platform talking to another one of our endpoints, and or maybe another standards-based endpoint. But one of the things that has been radically accelerated during the pandemic has been the fact that most of us now are using cloud-based platforms. We're not necessarily just using one cloud-based management platform, we're probably using multiple. So I get asked a lot from our customers out there that say, okay, well, this lens stuff is great, okay, brilliant. I can asset track my devices, maybe I can provision them and do all that kind of stuff. But I'm using Teams, so my world of Teams is in Teams Admin Center, Intune, or if I'm using Zoom, it'll be the Zoom management tools, or GoToMeeting, or Starlink, or whatever. And again, if I'm using multiples, I end up with 4 or 5 management platforms. I want a single pane of glass. What is the difference? And actually, this is for me because I don't quite understand the full difference of what are we doing in Lens versus what we're doing in Intune, what we're doing in Teams Admin Center, what we're doing in Zoom Manager. What is the differences, and where are the lines of demarcation between all of these different platforms? I know Alan or Brandon, who wants to take that one?
Yeah, Alan, I know
We
you've been
can,
very passionate about this
Go
one.
on.
You go for it.
yeah,
You throw Alan under the bus. There he is.
no, that's fine. So, Lens is, so regardless of your platform of choice, you are going to have the platform tools, the tools that work at the application layer. So in Teams, it's going to be Teams Admin Center. If you're running Zoom, it's going to be ZDM. If you're running Starleaf mode, it's going to be Starleaf Portal. And those tools are, those are your go-to tools. Those are always going to be there, regardless of which, regardless of how you're managing. You just have to have those tools. Where Lens comes in is Lens is complementary to those tools. Brandon won't appreciate this, but other Europeans probably will. Lens is like Heineken, so it reaches the parts that other tools can't reach. Okay. Sorry about that, but I promised somebody I would say that, right? So effectively, what you're doing in Lens is you're managing, if you think about it like a PC, you're managing the operating system and the hardware, and the application is being managed by the application tools. So Lens can give you visibility. It can give you visibility of not just X series devices put in a conferencing room. You can look after headsets, you can look after speaker phones, the P series devices that Brandon was chatting about earlier on. All those can be looked after and seen in Lens. So you're managing that, the operating system and the hardware. So for example, for deployability, if you were deploying to a network that needed that was running NAC and needed certificates deployed on the devices before they can actually get on the network, Teams Admin Center, ZDM, Starleaf Portal, they aren't going to be able to help you with that.
Just
Lens
that kind
can.
of out of box, I've got my
Yeah,
shiny new Poly product. I need to get
yeah.
it somewhere.
Yeah, we need to get it on. You need to get it onto the network so as it can actually talk to the cloud service that it wants to talk to.
It's that kind of
And
layer one, layer two. If you think about the network model, it's kind of layer one, layer
yeah,
two, hard cabling, wiring, and then obviously
yeah.
handing it
So
off at layer 3, 4. Yeah,
certificates, 802.1x, all your NAC stuff, getting that squared away so as the device is on the network, it's good to go and it can actually access the cloud service that it needs to access. So Lens is it's. Some people make the mistake saying, "Oh, Lens, it's why should we use Lens when we've got these other tools?" Well, Lens is complementary. It can really help with deployment. So if you're trying to deploy, I don't know, 500 X50s, please, we can automate that. So we can automate a good part of the deployment so that your poor deployment guy who's got to hang the monitors and put stuff on monitors and cable stuff up doesn't have a checklist this thick. Oh, sorry, I should do that this thick, so you can see that he's got to go. Okay, set this to that tick, set that to that tick, and do it all manually. With Lens, you can use policies. You can set a policy for your device model. You put all your common parameters in that policy. Plug it. Those are all set. So when you plug a device in, it registers itself to Lens and it pulls down all those preset configuration parameters. So the only thing to set up after that is unique parameters potentially in the application that you're using.
very cool. And obviously that works great. You use the example of an X50 then. That's an IP device, but what about these things? The Bluetooth headsets, USB cameras and stuff like that. We don't just sell IP devices now. We've got all these great peripherals, the P series for working from home. Presumably you can't manage these devices because they're not IP.
Yeah, of course you can.
Oh, okay. Go on then. Tell us more, Alan.
Of course you
Pray
can.
tell.
These guys, although you're using a Bluetooth headset, as am I, so they're not directly connected to the PC or the device that you're using, but they're connected by Bluetooth. And there's a Bluetooth dongle, normally a BT600 or a BT700 that you put in your PC to get the Bluetooth connection going. We provide an application called Lens Desktop, which will run today on Windows and Mac PCs, coming soon, Android and iOS.
Cool.
So that'll be pretty cool. That acts as it's almost like a gateway. into Lens Cloud. So the app talks to Lens Cloud and pushes back information about the headset that you've got, serial numbers, firmware versions, how often it's been used, those kind of analytics data. That can then be displayed within Lens, so as an administrator, you can go into Lens, you can go and look at a consolidated list of every device that you have, or if you want to particularly look at headsets and you may want to pick on one device user. So if you wanted to have a look at how many devices I've got, I could go into Lens Cloud, I could click on me, and I would see a list of all the USB devices that I have on my PC, and you get serial numbers, date registered, firmware versions, all that kind of information as an admin that you need to know about.
So
and
go on.
that's actually a very important part here when we start talking about with Lens, right? When we go back to your original question of why Lens, what are we doing, and how does this roll into our story with all of these multiple platforms? One of the common trends when you start talking about like a Teams Admin Center or a Zoom Device Management or Starleaf Portal is they're actually managing the application. When we move down to a device where we're talking about a Bluetooth or a USB peripheral that's connected to your PC that's running the app, that's not running the actual application on the hardware. And so the visibility from how do I manage that, or how do I have any kind of insights into that device and utilization, this is really kind of that gray area that separates itself. Clearly, a USB peripheral, when I plug it in, is going to work out of the box with that, with any of my collaboration platforms off of a PC. But when we talk about more complex deployments, many of the administrators want to understand what's actually happening, or how do I efficiently really have a touch point into there to do the same challenges that we talked about earlier. And that is one of the biggest reasons. And when we talk about this complementary approach, internally, we kind of call this our hybrid management, right? Lens isn't a replacement tool for any of these application managements, to Alan's point. It's a huge part of that conversation when we start talking about these peripherals.
Very cool. Now, Alan, I think you've got a kind of Lens platform there that you can kind of give us a show us. We can talk about this till the cows come home, but actually seeing is believing in many of these things. So I think if I switch to this scene, we can have all of us and the Lens thing. So talk us through what we're looking at here.
So effectively what we're looking at, this is the inventory page on, it is an internal instance of Lens that I have access to. Lots of SEs register the devices to it, and we kind of use it as almost an SE sandbox. We play to get the SEs used to it and to just learn about it. So what can you see? Well, you can see lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. Yeah, we'll not go there. Lots of BT600s, because everybody likes a cordless headset, a Bluetooth headset.
We have a lot of dongles floating around.
Yeah, there's dongle central. So let's have a wee look and see what else we can see. So let's go, and I've sorted the list because it's easier, because there are 1,600 odd devices on here. So we can see I've sorted the list, and we have 93 Studio P15s. Nice. So the USB camera, well, the USB web video bar, I would guess I would call, personal video bar, I would call it.
There it is, live prop.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
one of the things that's very interesting, kind of to your point, Neil, right? We talk about these USB peripherals that aren't network attached, and yet when we look here at this screen, we're clearly seeing locations and we're seeing addresses that, how does this actually work, right?
Yeah, because presumably they're on someone's home broadband behind, exactly. A domestic firewall and domestic ADSL or broadband or whatever.
Yeah, and this is one of those value props that we start talking about, visibility for these peripherals to our IT admins, right? How do I understand how and what people are using? As we start to understand contextually, we can identify, hey, I can trend and see that Alan prefers a mono headset over a binaural headset, or Brandon prefers a speakerphone because he doesn't like wearing things on his head all day long. So it's starting to understand. I'm just used to having a closed office here. We'll stay with that.
Okay.
And it's that idea of how do we better equip our administrators to understand the devices, right? Yeah. It's separating and understanding the platform. Alan made a great analogy there about understanding the hardware versus understanding Windows or the application running in Windows. And that's a big part of this lens story here.
Yeah, huge part, Brandon. Absolutely right. So, if I go and search on Studio X50, for example, then I've got 46 of them. This might be a little bit of an eye chart in the YouTube's land, but if you have a look at the two that are actually showing us online here, you'll see one of them is in provider mode Microsoft Teams.
Ah,
And
okay.
one of them, so it's a native Microsoft Teams device,
Nice.
and the one underneath it is a native Zoom device.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, still shown in Lens, shown as online. We can actually dive in. I'm not sure where these are, but let's
Get
find
us some
out.
fun.
Let's find out, shall we? So I'll pick on that one.
This is like through the keyhole. I feel
Yeah,
a bit like, you know.
pretty much, yes. So what can we see? What can we do? So we can restart the device, which I'm not going to do because
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
not.
know whose it is. Right? Tempting though it is, I'm just not.
Excellent.
I could factory reset it. Okay, so that may or may not be useful. There are times when you might need to do that. Right? It's great to be able to do that remotely. To
Yeah,
to
definitely.
Brandon's point, he was talking about people being not in the office. If you've got senior execs or just people like us who have these things at home, the ability to manage it, restart it if it something goes wrong and you think it will be sorted by a restart, factory default if maybe it gets lost or stolen or something like that, or maybe a factory default, who knows, but you can do it. You don't the point is that you don't have to travel to the site or to somebody's home, or you don't have to get them to send the device back to you as the IT admin. It's at your, I've got to say your fingertips, but your mouse tips, right? But serial number information, MAC address, IP address, private IP address, I have to say, software versions, public IP address, which we'll gloss over. The provider room is Zoom Rooms, the room itself, so whoever's device this is has associated it to a conference room. He's called it LA Times. I'm presuming it's in LA somewhere. Oh no, it's not. The site is Leander in TX, so that's Texas, right, Brandon?
That is.
Yeah,
And you say you don't know geography.
Yeah, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. What else can we see? We can see the date that it was. Yeah, we can see the date it was added. We can see the date that it was last seen. Note to Brandon, can we sort the dates out, please?
Oh, we want English dates rather than these stupid
Yeah,
American
please.
dates, yeah.
No, you said that, not me. Okay.
Okay.
I thought we were keeping this civil, Neil.
Yeah, all right. International, we'll go cause international event there.
Absolutely.
I think one of the parts that you're seeing here is really a key component. Now, this is a what we talk about our connected view, right? In this case, this is a very simple room where we have just an X50 and a single controller. As you know, we've got a kind of a variety of offerings. When we start moving into our G7500s, we actually get to a very complex room model where I've got network connected mics and network connected speakers, and I've got these cameras that are varying components, right? I mean, in an X50, yeah, the camera is going to be online if the device is online because the camera is a part of the system. In a G7500 world, for instance, though, I'm going to be dependent on some other peripheral being connected. And so from this example, we're seeing we have a TC8, but as we get to our more complicated rooms, we're actually able to give you visibility into all the components within a space. Because when you really think about it, if the codec is up, that's only part of the battle. I can't control it. If I don't have the mics or the speakers, really the room is not online. If one thing's down, the whole room is effectively down. And that's that visibility we're talking about from a space. And so it's not so much whether the app is signed in or whether the component is, it's how do we understand just the health of the room at a very foundational level? And that's from a connected device, what we're seeing here, that visibility.
Yeah, it's super handy, as Brandon says, the ability to have most of the stuff that you're going to be looking at on a regular basis in the one place. Talking of troubleshooting, and not having to visit devices or not getting to devices posted back to you so that you've got access to them, should you ever need to, you can now remotely fetch the logs from the devices. So this isn't, this isn't the Zoom logs, this isn't the Starleaf logs, this isn't the Teams logs, this is the device logs themselves. So you no longer have to rock up to the room, get your USB key out, plug it in, dump the logs onto the USB key. You can actually get them remotely. So if I hit fetch logs, what Lens is doing now is it's reaching out to the device and saying, give me all your logs. Once Lens gets a hold of them, and this should take a couple of seconds, it's going to depend on how many logs are actually there. But once it's done, I'll get a download link appearing in Lens that will say, here's the tar.gz file. Oh, there she is there. Okay.
And this is inclusive of everything with it, right? So we talk about this is the platform, this is the application logs, this is everything associated with what's happening on that device, and it's just bringing you into one step of supportability of a location.
And it saves trips, right? So Polly, if you've got
no more truck rolls.
Polly, well, which is, some people like driving on the motorway, I quite like it, but yeah. So if you've got a case open with Polly support, they ask you to get the logs, and the system that you're managing is 400 miles away. That's not good. Being able to do it via Lens is perfect. So you've got the logs, you package them up, you send them off to tech support.
Right.
Job done. Which is nice, huge time saver.
And this is all cool, because again, I'm still seeing sort of layer 1, layer 2 kind of management and stuff like that. But one of the things that we talked a lot about Lens when we talk to customers is kind of being able to do the over and above stuff, the icing on the cake, let's say, the counting the people in the room, looking at room occupancy, talking about kind of home network bandwidth and things like that on the P series with the sort of network tests. Is that there today, or was that kind of blue sky thinking that was kind of coming kind of in the future with regards to what Lens can do?
What do you think, Brandon? Should we? I think we should.
Yeah, you can show them a little bit of our a preview from our insights here. So we have a little bit of this. Again, you'll see since Alan is signed in with a Poly account, you get some what we call our Poly internal. This is a little bit of a preview of some of the insights that we're working towards. We have quite a bit more as we are launching some new devices. You mentioned earlier around our E70, we've got a lot of
don't show anything
sensors and some components
Be careful
there.
what you're doing. Let's not get ourselves in trouble, and let's get the blur key out later.
You mentioned there from just the high level of like, hey, what else we got? We absolutely are building towards a little bit more of your understanding about space utilization. And this really, when we talk about insights and analytics, is one of the things that from a Lens value prop that we really see additive to our customers. We understand as we talk to all of our different customers, the idea that we primarily meet in ecosystem A, but we also sometimes meet in ecosystem 2, right? And this is one of the things that we really see when we manage the platform as a value for our customers, in that I can help you understand how your room is being used. So for instance, I've come into one of our IT huddle spaces, right? It's a small room for 2 people. Up on the wall, I've got a video endpoint, but I'm not actually using it. So even though this is set up, I think this one's set up in a Zoom space, although if I were joining in a Zoom meeting from this endpoint, I would have that insights and analytics. Because I've decided to join from my PC, there is no record of me using this room as an IT admin. Now, one of the values that we can actually derive for you out of Poly Lens is this camera does have a sensor, and it does know that it's being occupied by me as a person. And so giving that insight to understand really space utilization, not Zoom meeting utilization or Teams meeting utilization, that information will always be a part of their application reporting, and is very valuable information that you'll get from those providers. We're working around this idea of understanding your space and your device utilization, right? So whether that be a meeting room or whether that be a headset preference that we kind of talked on earlier. That's really when we talk about these insights, that's where we're focusing. And you see a couple here that Alan has started to point on, right? So this idea of your meeting head count. So when we start having these calls, regardless of whether that's a native meeting, right? So in this case, we can see these varying devices based on what we have reported there on the location. So that's giving me a little bit of contextual information. We're reporting that. I always kind of tend to say that our SE sandbox is great to get volume, but given that all these endpoints are generally at people's houses,
People's
the
Yeah,
numbers
houses.
are very underwhelming.
the average head count's about 1 in a bit.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
The cat
I'm
comes
always
in.
baiting my kids to come into the room just to get more faces so that we can get some spikes here and there. But yeah, our numbers are not necessarily impressive when we come in from a demonstration here, because we are averaging what we would expect, one person in
One person,
our
they're all
home
personal
office
units.
there.
Oh, that's very good.
Exactly, and you can do the room use minutes per day as well. So it kind of doesn't matter whether there's 9 people or however you know the rooms in use. That produces some slightly more spectacular numbers, because there's what over 200 SEs worldwide that use this. So we get some pretty good numbers in here, and this is just the start. These are, as Brandon says, these are available to Poly employees only at the moment. So we're kind of giving you a little bit of a sneaky peeky, if you like. But this is something that Brandon and I would show customers anyway if we were doing a Lens demo to customers. So
Very cool. We haven't broken any NDAs.
no, you're not good. You're not good.
You're all in the clear here.
You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
I'm in safe hands, I know. So I love it. I'm sold. I guess sold is probably the right word, because we've got, for the people who know Polycom and Plantronics of old, we've had Resource Manager, we've had PDMS on the Polycom side. People with headsets may have Plantronics Manager Pro, and then we've got obviously the Teams Admin Center and Intune and all that kind of stuff. So we've been talking about Lens for a long time now, and it was this kind of preview, and we were kind of getting stuff into Lens, and the kind of phones were there, and then the studio USB was there, and some of the stuff was there. What is the plan? Yeah, is this still free? Because I believe it is free of charge. Are we going to start charging for it? And where are we with regards to the journey to Lens from, say, the legacy platforms or from existing Poly headsets, handsets, conference phones, video devices? Is everything in Lens now? Are we ready to go? Ready to push the button? Can people literally migrate from all? There's a lot of stuff here. So I don't know if you remember all that, where you want to start, but there's a mixing bowl to cover.
In a lot.
Yeah.
You kind of
explain.
bundled in a whole lot of things at one question here. So let's
go on.
we're going to start with the kind of maybe the latter question that you answered or asked around, is Lens free, or what does this look like for our customers? And then we'll turn that into the conversation of where are we and what is that looking like. So the first and foremost is, when we took a look at the state of everything, we decided from a Lens perspective that we wanted to take a very dramatic change to our strategy around device enablement. And so Lens, in terms of that base core feature functionality, we talk about basic manageability, basic insights, and inventory, and view of all these things. So features like, how do I get access to logs? Really, that's a fundamental feature when we talk about a device. And so our approach from Lens is actually a little bit different in terms of anything you've probably dealt with either Polycom or Plantronics in the past, and that literally you just go to the Lens website and sign up.
Nice.
We've built Lens to be really an extension of the device, such that because you're using Poly devices, we feel that these cloud features should be a free thing to really empower and enable you to effectively use our devices in a better way. And that's when we talk about the delivery of the capabilities. That's really kind of our paradigm. That's our model, and how we're focusing around Lens. Now, there are many things that we know kind of today, as well as when we talked about like, hey, well, what's coming, or what are some kind of more icing on the cake, maybe a way to put it. So today, from a Lens perspective, a lot of that basic device insights are fundamental and part of that free service. You sign in, you're going to have full visibility into everything that's free. And from a Poly perspective, what's free will stay free, right? So when we talk about that inventory management, you're always going to get that capability. Today, we have gone ahead and started doing some, maybe some premium features, and we've enabled this through our services model of what we've called Poly Plus. And what this does is, because I'm carrying a contract or an additional value on my device, I'm actually getting these enhanced features on not only the endpoint, I'm getting my coverage from a warranty extension, next business day replacement. I'm also getting advanced feature functionality out of the cloud. as well. And so in our P series devices, we focused today from a launch, we talked about that network bandwidth. So we've extended the ability for the end user to run that test and have a consistent, reliable report. We are still providing that information up into the cloud. However, as an administrator, that is one of those things that we look at as a premium value. And so to be able to see that historical trend and get that information for my user so that I can understand, what's been the trend at Alan's house. Does he have a lot of bandwidth going consistently? Understanding that as a capability, that's something that we're looking at as more of a premium component.
Okay. Right.
When we talk about where we're going, I don't know, Alan, if you want to jump in there or talk about where we're at in the journey.
So where are we going? From the Lens desktop perspective, we are building in support at pace, like properly at pace. The last I heard is that about 85% of the headsets will be supported in Lens desktop by September. And then policies for those devices will follow around about the same time scale. So it's going to be getting to the stage where Manager Pro and Lens will be getting to that value parity stage. And then we'll be looking at, instead of initially going to customers saying, Manager Pro is your weapon of choice, if you like, then it'll be that time to say, actually, Lens is probably your weapon of choice going forward.
Right.
Yeah, I think
there's that
the
consolidation thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key message is we understood these challenges that are facing our customers, and we looked at kind of all the different components you mentioned earlier with your question, Neil. What we realized is that we'd learned a lot from the various cloud providers that we had been building out before in the Polycom and the Plantronics days. And what we wanted to do is really modernize and build that platform from the ground up. So I know we've been talking about Lens for a while. We've been kind of addressing and building in those components. Lens is kind of Poly's future around how we're going to address our cloud services. We're absolutely investing in bringing that value parity to steal Alan's terminology there. How do we bring in and solve those challenges, but solve them maybe in a better way, right? What's the real underlying problem our customers are running into, and bringing that capability to solve the problem, not necessarily say, yeah, well, I checked this box with the blue ink before in PDMS-E, so I'm going to have to make it checked with the same blue ink to go forward. What we're really working towards is, what's the fundamental challenge that our customers are running into? How do we solve that versus just continually repeating and doing a lot of the same things? Yeah. That's really been our focus from the cloud side.
Yeah, there's no point in doing the same thing of old, Brandon, is there? We learn the lessons and take the learnings and move forward, right?
There's always space for people to be able to redo the things. There's no reason to recreate the wheel, so to speak, for many of the challenges. But there's also many times where we find out, hey, a wheel's better when you make it out of rubber, right? And so that's where we're wanting to learn this idea of how do we learn and improve and build something that's a modern build for this. I think the word you used earlier was like, hey, this rapid escalation towards cloud and understanding how that adoption is working, that's really been our focus around how we're solving that with Lens. And yeah, we've been talking about Lens, and I think if you look back at our history of track record of delivery, we've been constantly building in features, functionality, and delivering them on a regular basis. There's a lot of work to do. We are still delivering against that. The one thing that I want to do, make sure to kind of address and make sure it's not left off the table since you've brought it up, we understand that we do have customers that are not really happy about the idea of moving to the cloud. And so from a Poly perspective, we are still investing in our premises-based solution. We understand those customer needs. We're still investing, we're still developing within there. We are talking very publicly about Lens, but we are still very much interested in our customers who are more cloud averse. And we do have our resource manager offering. We are still funding and working, building and enhancing, and really delivering a lot of these same value challenge solutions that we mentioned for Lens. We're building that same kind of functionality as we look towards our premises-based components as well. So just to make sure that we're not
alienating.
some part of the conversation there.
Yeah, our friends in Russia or in China, I'm sure, who with never a cloudy day over there, will be very happy about that point as well. Yeah, for sure. I think again we can go on. There's lots of other questions, and I think we probably need to do a part 2 on this around sort of APIs and roadmaps and visions and things like that. As to there's going to be a lot of questions. And again, if you have got questions, if we haven't covered something off today, please, Alan is our representative here in EMEA. You can hook him up to do, again, he'll do your one-on-one demo. He'll go through and everything and go much. I'm selling him it. He's available for weddings and funerals and bar mitzvahs and all sorts of things.
Thanks,
there you go.
Cheers. Thank you.
and we saw based on his calendar, he wasn't working on Monday. So
there you
go. Mondays are good. Thanks.
And Brandon, obviously, you're kind of our main guy over there in the States, and we've got people know. But the Lens team is very dynamic. There is also, I believe, and again, I could be dropping my foot in it. There's a kind of a comment tool in Lens where you can actually put in requests, and you can actually
absolutely,
being a cloud tool, it is very dynamic. It's not like you've got to wait for version 2 or version 3. Features just drop. That's the whole benefit of Kevin was talking about Teams last week, saying they make these changes and move things around week by week. Hopefully we don't do that, but again, hopefully we are dropping new features in on a regular cadence. It's very agile with regards to its development. We'd love to get your feedback on that. And again, we will do a part 2, but if you do have specific questions, do put them in the comments below. And again, I'll get Brandon and Alan to answer that. Gentlemen, thank you ever so much. Brandon, thank you for taking time out over there in West.
Absolutely.
You got up early and joining us. Alan, thank you. You got last. You're always in the chat and always setting me straight, but it's good to actually have you on the show. There you go.
You're welcome.
And Cupid always says that there's never enough people from EMEA on the show as well. So that's also you're making my
this is 0.5 on the percentage to EMEA then.
Yeah, so in my Lens score, those graphs would be moved from 1 across to 2.
You'll be sorted.
Very good. So again, thank you ever so much for joining us. We will get you back on for another one. Thank you all for joining us on this pre-record on all things management, Lens, and again, what Lens is, what's it all about, and where are we going, what are we doing about it. The difference is, hopefully we've explained this is a complementary tool and not a replacement tool for the cloud-based management tools. And as you've hopefully seen, there's a lot of interesting pieces in there, from the onboarding and the provisioning, and then the insights and stuff that we're developing, and the guys gave you a sneak peek into. And again, this is free. Go and download it, poly.com/lens. Go get it. Everyone likes free. Go and get it. It is free. So go and have a play, and again, let us know how you're getting on. Thank you for joining this week. I will see you on next week's show. I believe, depending on which way around I do this, we're probably back to live, I think, next week. But whatever you're doing, have a great rest of the week. Put us in your calendar, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you on the next Poly Live Weekly News.